What's going on, guys? Tyler here from Don'tPanicDoThis.com, the site all about helping you to beat your panic attacks and anxiety. In today's video, we're going to be talking about Hangxiety. So what is Hangxiety? If you guys are anything like me, you've probably gone out before, enjoyed just a few drinks too many, maybe even thrown some other stuff in the mix. You feel great, you don't feel anxious at all, but the next day, maybe even the next 2 days, you're just feeling not great, and beyond your regular hangover, you're also just feeling higher anxiety levels than usual. You're feeling more jittery, more anxious, just overall not good in that regard. This is something that I call, and many other people refer to as Hangxiety. Fortunately, you might be thinking there is no solution for this, but there's actually a lot of things we can do to minimize this Hangxiety, which is, we're feeling this in the first place due to GABA depletion in our brain. And there's many ways that we can get those GABA levels to bounce back, or just to help get us through those anxious couple of days and feel better as quickly as possible. So that's what we're going to be covering in this video. I have 5 of my own personal favorite tips that I'm going to discuss with you. These are things that I genuinely do almost every time I drink to make sure that I don't have that awful day that it's lost to Hangxiety. So let's get right into this, guys, and let's talk a little bit about what Hangxiety is and why we feel it in the first place. As always, guys, remember that I'm not a doctor. This is not medical advice. Everything I'm talking about here is just based on my own research or my own experience with Hangxiety or with anxiety in general. With that said, let's move on. Now, there's no such thing as a free ride when it comes to drugs, which is why we experience Hangxiety in the first place. Anytime we're taking anything that's going to play with our brain's chemistry, which alcohol absolutely does, it's going to have some type of effect that we're going to maybe pay for down the road. With regard to alcohol, now when we're drinking alcohol, the chemicals are binding to the GABA A receptors in our brain, which is making us, that's the primary inhibitory neurotransmitter in the brain. So it's responsible for making us feel relaxed and calm, making us feel more sociable and just less inhibited in general. That's awesome. That's why we love drinking, many of us, especially those of us who are anxious. However, it's also why we don't want to drink too much or become too reliant on it, is because after the fact, once that alcohol has worn off, now we're going to experience the opposite of the desired effect, which is GABA Rebound. The GABA levels in our brain are now depleted, making us feel all those opposite feelings, basically, of how alcohol made us feel good in the first place. So we might feel a little bit more anxious, jittery, confused. I can tell you from my own experience that my day or two, it really lasts like almost 2 days for me if I don't do my little tricks that we'll get into later. But that day or two following a night of heavy drinking or something like that, on top of the regular hangover symptoms, I'll just feel like just generally anxious. Like I won't really want to, if I'm waiting in line to order food or something at a restaurant or whatever, like I'll just feel a little bit of social anxiety, whereas I usually would never feel that way at all. So for me, it's a pretty obvious effect. Some of you guys might definitely feel like you recognize it as well. You just want to veg out on the couch all day. Other people, it might be more subtle, but it's definitely something to be aware of. How long does Hangxiety last? Typically speaking, Hangxiety usually lasts for about a day to 2 days, in my experience. If you're a regular, heavy, habitual drinker, it might last even longer if you've done something to cause a greater degree of GABA rebound to take place. But I think for most people, probably it would be a day or two. Hangxiety can also play a role in our sleep. I feel that Hangxiety kicks in as soon as that last drop of alcohol has burnt off through our bloodstream. Once the alcohol's worn off, I feel Hangxiety starts to kick in. So sometimes if you drink like a certain, maybe a small amount, but enough that, you know, it wears off when you're sleeping. Sometimes if I do something like that, I'll wake up in the middle of the night and just already feel the Hangxiety. Like, oh, great, now I can't go back to sleep. I'm tossing and turning, or I'm just having bad dreams, bad sleep. So that's something to definitely be mindful of. Ironically, if I drink a lot, I'll just sleep totally through the night, probably because the alcohol is still active and the Hangxiety isn't kicking in yet. But I find that if I drink smaller amounts, sometimes I'll wake up in the middle of the night because I assume that's when the Hangxiety is kicking in, when I'm having that GABA rebound and just feeling a little bit more anxious and my sleep is disrupted. So Hangxiety will resolve itself on its own, typically within 1 to 2 days, but there are things we can do to speed this along and make it so that we don't have any days of anxiety. And now something else I want to mention, just because I think it's so important for anybody, especially if you're a regular drinker of alcohol, is when Hangxiety can become dangerous. And that's when people start to develop alcohol use disorder or alcoholism. So the reason that this can occur, remember, I'm not a doctor, guys, but the reason that this seems to occur a lot of times is because Hangxiety is causing these like mini withdrawal effects. Basically, it's out of our system. We're having GABA rebound, and we're having basically a mini withdrawal is what it is. And because of this, we're feeling like we need to drink more sometimes. Some people will try to self-medicate with alcohol to alleviate those feelings of anxiety that Hangxiety is bringing on. When you start to do this, it starts to become a vicious cycle. I recommend nobody ever try to self-medicate with alcohol. If you are feeling anxious, you're coming off of drinking or something like that, there are plenty of resources you can use to help you with that, especially with when it's serious and it's alcoholism. You should definitely seek help from a professional with that. Also, I have a few tips that have kept me safe over the years. I've been a regular recreational drinker since I was young, but it's none of my business how you drink, but these are the tips that have kept me from ever becoming reliant or dependent on it, and it's just a fun social thing for me. Those 3 tips are: 1, I don't drink in an attempt to manage emotional or psychological problems. If I'm going through something emotionally, I'm not going to try to mask it with alcohol. I don't think it's a good coping mechanism. I also avoid drinking more than twice per week. Hey, if you're in college, I get it, but if you're a little older or whatever, I would try to limit it to twice per week. That personally, but do you? And then 3, I never drink alone. So I always drink as a social thing. I'm going to a party. There's some kind of social event. Everyone else is drinking. It's a social thing for me. It's not something that I'm doing by myself. I feel a lot of times when people just drink for no reason by themselves, often this is kind of what leads down a slippery slope towards alcoholism. Those are just my opinions, guys. I'm not a doctor, but those are the rules that have kept me safe over the years. Okay, now the reason that you guys are here, my 5 big tips for decreasing or completely eliminating Hangxiety the day or 2 after drinking. So my first tip is kind of a basic one, but I think it's important to throw out there. First step is just take it easy for the day. Have a couch day, relax, sleep in, let your body repair. You probably did a number on your brain and your body last night, so let your body do its thing, let it repair. It will be able to repair and regenerate on its own, so let it do that. Get your rest. Don't feel like you need to force yourself out and be rushing around and engaging in even more social activities, because it's probably just gonna stress you out and cause more anxiety than you need. Your Hangxiety won't be as bad if you're not putting yourself in those positions on that day. Obviously, you might have things that you have to attend, work-related things, class, projects, stuff like that. If so, I understand. But if possible, take a couch day. Take it easy, relax, and try to recover. Step number 2 is going to be to make yourself a nice cup of stress relief tea. So if you guys don't already have a tea that you like, I really recommend finding a good herbal one with passion flower, chamomile, or valerian in it. I would avoid anything caffeinated, so green tea, black tea, coffee, anything like that I would typically avoid. I just don't think caffeine's the best mix for Hangxiety. However, drink whatever you like. But I have a full video and a full article on the website that I recommend you guys check out. It's where I do an experiment with over 20 different stress relief teas, and I found one that did the best job of relieving my symptoms of anxiety, and I drink it all the time after I'm feeling any type of Hangxiety. Some of those ingredients help to boost your GABA levels back up, which is really great after they've been depleted from drinking alcohol. Actually, my birthday was 2 days ago, and I had a little bit of Hangxiety, so as always, I'm sipping on my tea, making sure I keep my baseline anxiety as low as possible. But definitely check out that video, check out that article for my top recommendation on the best stress relief tea. But whichever one you decide, go for those ingredients: chamomile, passion flower, valerian. That stuff's really, really helpful at taking the edge off of Hangxiety. Step number 3, set some ambiance by putting some lavender in an essential oil diffuser. So lavender has long been known as a remedy for feelings of anxiety and stuff like that. So I just think it's a really good way to, you're drinking your tea, you're relaxing on the couch, you have the essential oil diffuser pumping lavender into the room. These are all good ways, good natural ways to kind of fix the damage that you've done with something unnatural. So I think that this is a good route to go. Lavender, whatever, or if you have a scent that's just relaxing to you in general, something that's subjectively relaxing to you. But lavender is a tried and true one for symptoms of anxiety, so I do recommend going with lavender or any scent that you like, but fire up that essential oil diffuser and let it do its thing. Tip number 4 for you guys is going to be to consider taking Hangxiety pills. So in recent years, a lot of entrepreneurs have realized that there's actually a big market for people looking to crush their hangovers or crush their Hangxiety, those negative feelings after drinking. You can pretty much find these kind of supplements now, like in any gas station, usually on the counter or something. Right there in your face as you're picking up your beer is the Hangover Cure. I will link below to my personal favorite supplement, a review that I did of them, and somewhere that you can buy that if you're interested. Otherwise, feel free to find a brand that you like on your own. I really recommend the ingredient that you want to see in there is DHM, that's dihydromyricetin. And what it is basically, it helps the body metabolize and break down alcohol faster. So you're gonna take it after your last drink, once you're ready to start sobering up. It makes the hangover not as bad and not quite as long lasting. It also seems to bind to the GABA A receptors. So instead of being completely GABA depleted, it kind of like just carries us through, I guess you'd say, those feelings. It binds to the GABA A receptors and gives us some temporary relief while our brain recovers so that we don't have this otherwise abrupt, brutal GABA rebound that we usually would have. So I do recommend checking that out, finding one of those hangover supplements. They're not gimmicks. They really do work from the ones that I've tried. I'm not saying they all work, but I'll say the ones I've used have worked, and I will link below to my favorite one if you wanted to try it out yourself. And my fifth and final tip for conquering Hangxiety is going to be to actively relax with something like yoga or meditation. These are both really, really great ways to, really great coping mechanisms to help you deal with anxiety in general, Hangxiety as well. Mindfulness meditations, tense and release exercises, yoga poses, breath work. This is all great stuff that you can learn more about on the site. Really, really great stuff to help you deal with those feelings and just to help you ease through your anxiety, especially if you do this regularly and you're experienced with it. If you're new to it, then the first couple of times probably aren't going to be that relaxing. The first couple of times you do yoga are probably going to be anything but relaxing. But over time and with practice, they can be really, really effective coping mechanisms and can really help take the edge off your anxiety. And those are my tips. That's everything for the tips. Remember, guys, you can also get Hangxiety from things other than alcohol. Basically, any drug that binds to or floods the GABA receptors can have this GABA rebound effect that is going to cause Hangxiety. So one of my favorite anxiety supplements is phenibut. However, you know, you take a high dose of that, and the next day, the next 2 days, you are going to have Hangxiety from that. You're going to have GABA rebound. You're not going to feel good. So that's why it's so important, whatever you're taking, whatever you're using, whatever you're trying, just be respectful of the dosage. Don't do it too much. Don't do it too often, because the easiest way to prevent Hangxiety is not to beat the heck out of your brain in the first place. Don't flood the GABA receptors. Don't abuse them. You'll never have Hangxiety if you don't do that, but I know that's a big ask. I wouldn't expect anybody to totally drop everything that they're doing right now. But I think that these 5 tips can really help carry you through it, make that day or two of Hangxiety a lot shorter, a lot more manageable. I hope these tips were helpful to you guys. If you have a friend that you think could benefit from this, please don't forget to share with them. Like, comment, subscribe, check out the site. Thank you guys so much for sticking to the end. I will talk to you next time.